those shoes have been to Morocco and Spain and France and Portugal.
His shoes.
Yeah, those are well traveled.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent. So where exactly am I here?
I would say disheveled garage.
That's what I really want to know. Did you order that car? Did you have to have that car? Was it on the lot? What was
I'd been out of college, I guess, for 4 years, and I decided, it's the time to go into debt, and I loved the Grand Am, and this was the Grand Am SE, which I've never quite understood why GT meant it would be a sporty car, because that's Grand Touring. So when I saw this in the garnet red, I'm a red person. And I decided I would...
Politically or just in general?
I'm probably a little purple. Wawa Hoagie Fest to me is like a religious holiday. I think it just ended. But
I think it did,
I think you told me you have one really close to your home.
I do, and I go there and get coffee sometimes. They got like flavored coffees, and I'm kind of into that.
Yeah.
Do they do the hot turkey gobbler down there?
They do.
Oh, man.
They
do.
You
can get it in a bowl,
and they do.
You can get it on a roll.
They're doing pizza now, and the pizza's pretty good.
Is it really?
Yeah. Look at this old rotary mower. Greetings from Eastern Pennsylvania, fun seekers. 1987 in the automotive world was about the end of the malaise era. That's when cars finally started getting fairly decent with fuel injection and at least a little bit of power. Now it's about 53 degrees here, and you Pennsylvania people don't know how good you have it. All you northern people, Florida is just on fire all the time. I don't necessarily know what inspired me to buy this car, virtually sight unseen. I do know when I contacted this guy, he's got an impressive array of paperwork. This is a little maintenance log, which includes almost every time he waxed it. I've got everything for this car. Original keys, everything. But we're going to jump into this thing and see what we're looking at here. I want to try to get this thing fired up out of this garage, put it on a tow dolly, take it back to Florida, where I can do more stuff with it. My name's Jason, and this is Grease Belly Garage. Come on. There we go. Come on, baby. You can see this garage is in pretty nice shape here. It's a little dank in there, to be honest. Everybody just hold your horses here, okay? I know this car is not the most exciting thing to do on YouTube or even in general, but I like situations like this. First of all, on the tag you can see the last registration was 2016. This is a 1987 Pontiac Grand Am SE, two-door with a 3-liter V6, which is probably the best part of the car. Here's the little maintenance log I showed off. It's got every little mishap with this car since it was new, from having mud flaps installed, battery dead cells, what was done under warranty. This guy was just obsessed with this car. And the last time anything was entered was Black Friday of 2015, and it had 42,034 miles on it. So it's been parked here since that day in 2015. And you can see it's been well protected with, I don't know, critter droppings and dirt, dust. Now, one thing that I didn't know about before I got here, unfortunately, all these Grand Ams of this era, these side moldings have a tendency to disintegrate, like this one. Now, the fix for that is just to take them off and then shine up the upper molding right here and just let it go with that. I've seen that a lot, actually. You can see all the muck, and unfortunately there's a hole in this roof that's not helping matters any. Here's the front. The SE had the first Aero headlights on these cars. This car came out in 85 and went to 91, I think. Yeah. End body. Somerset Regal. Oldsmobile Cutlass Calais. Got a power antenna. You can see all the coons or whatever have been climbing all over this thing. It is really tight for me in here. Big nasty spider web down there. I'll just go back the way I came. Here's a little better look down the other side. One thing I'm going to have to deal with for sure is this gas situation. And I don't know how to... Is there a remote release for this thing? I bet there is. Got a set of original keys. There's also a set of original unused keys. Now underneath all that filth and disgrace, you've got this. The original medium red paint. Really nice trunk liner. There went my light. Here's the maintenance log, which we'll put back where it goes. He's got every single piece of paperwork and doodad and doohickey that came with this car, and some extra stuff, even original things that he used to use. I think these guys up here are partial to Quaker State. Oh, here's a sponge. That smells awful. Grand Am SE 2-door coupe, and came with all the standard options. The LN7 V6. Those engines were real popular in early 80s Buick Centuries and a few other cars. Pretty good engines from what I understand. When you see it, you'll see its resemblance to the Grand National 3800 engine. Or the Series 1 3800 engine, I should say. Got split folding rear seat, check. Air conditioning, cruise control, 3-liter. 3-speed transmission, tilt steering, lamp group, stereo with cassette, and automatic reverse. Power antenna painted, whatever that means. And red, medium red primary paint. Leather appointment group, I didn't see that. Easy entry front seats. This is all your standard equipment up here. This is a Monroney label, they call them. That always reminds me of the police academy. $14,495. And when you go to a car dealership, at least back then, this is called a bump sticker, where they bump the price up, or addendum. You've heard of dealer addendums. Back when I worked at dealerships, I used to put these in the windows, and it was usually an even number. So back then, the dealer charge was $195, which is pretty conservative. Back in the day, it probably wasn't. But basically, dealer charge means rip-off. It means you just walked on the lot, so you just paid that to show up, basically. Because there's already profit built in this. Maybe not much, but 87, if I remember, was a good year to buy cars. I was 14 years old. Everybody was buying new cars, and the people that bought these cars, these end bodies in particular, were guys like... When you couldn't afford a Trans Am, if you wanted something sporty that looked cool, you bought one of these. There was literally millions of these cars. I think they made 3 million of these 3rd gen Grand Ams. They were very popular. And it was like single women in their 30s, guys in their 30s, you know, on a budget, had a decent job. And then the Somerset Regals were driven by, as one of my former neighbors would say, women that were hurting for a squirtin', as he used to say. Well, the door lock still works good. That's good. That's actually good news. Got lots of mold in here. I could see that immediately. I mean, look at that. Sports seats. Got that steering wheel without all the crazy buttons in it. Real gauges. I don't know what was in the glove box. Simple HVAC controls. The odometer, I can't see because I think it's digital. All right, what is that? Uh-oh. Oh, some kind of weird seat adjustment right there. This is a combination cup holder. Or, I think, it's also an ashtray. Now that's clever. and it's in good shape. This whole interior is in really good shape. I know it's hard to see because I'm trying to work my way around in here. Whenever you have a car that's got real maps in the console and coins in the coin holder, that's always a good sign. But there's some delamination there on that lid. That's not all that uncommon. So it looks good in here. Original mats are in place. And believe it or not, it doesn't even stink in here. It smells like a new car. So that's good. That means the mice may not have gotten it. Oh, where are you? Right there you are. Okay. Right where it says prop rod is where that goes. Okay, here we go. See how familiar this thing looks to the 3800 V6? Now what I'm going to look for initially is any kind of wiring damage, especially towards the back. Lots of relays back there. That doesn't look good at all. That's bad. Well, it may be an optical illusion. All the wiring down there looks good. That looks like a blower motor resistor. All the wiring up in the fuel injected areas look good. I don't know. This is 50-50 sketch at best, it looks like. Oh, yeah. That's good news right there. Looks brand new. There's still oil pooled in there too. That's good. Oh, look at that. That's great. And when you see these old fittings like this is an old R12 air conditioning system. And there was pressure that popped on that when I did that. That's kind of an impressive sign. It's still got some pressure in it. Now that's cool. Enough pressure that it might even work. I did look under this car. I didn't see a lot of rust issues. So, all right, let's start the grease belly algorithm. Try to get this thing fired up. If you look in my playlist, and I'll try to put some kind of a link to a video about a 1987 Grand National that sat in a situation similar to this that I bought about 10 years ago. I put the video on YouTube, but nobody watched YouTube back then. I've actually been on YouTube since 2006. But there's exactly 2 weak links with fuel-injected cars. And a lot of these YouTube guys kind of get bent about fuel-injected cars, but they're really not that big a deal. It's just a whole bunch of sensors, electric fuel pump. The sensors operate on voltages. They tell a computer what to do. It talks to other sensors. Makes the car run. Now, in my opinion, all of that stuff got a lot more complicated with the advent of the push-button starter and the electric steering rack. That's where I got bent, because you can't work on those things. This thing here, easy peasy. The 2 big weak links with these cars in the 80s with electronic fuel injection are your intake fuel pump and the fuse block. Now, when I did that Grand National, that car gave me fits for 6 months. Sometimes the radio would work, sometimes the power seat would work, sometimes the headlights would come on, sometimes the cooling fan would come on, and it was so weird. Ended up being, well, I had to put a fuel pump in it because it sat for so long. I think that car sat under a car cover for 25 years in a parking lot. But I made that car beautiful, and it took me 6 months to work out all the electrical gremlins with it. Now I do it to every single car that I get like this. The first thing I'm going to do, though, I brought my handy dandy, I always call these an endoscope, but I guess the proper terminology is a borescope. Because I'm going to go ahead and look into the gas tank to see what's in there before I go crazy. Because the beauty of this is this car may not have had gas put in it since 2005, is what I'm hoping. Because my friend Steve Parker, who you've seen in other videos, he calls the new gas Obama gas because it has all that ethanol in it. Better make sure there's no bugs in here. Oh. Ethanol gas sucks. It turns into water, absorbs water. It's like acidic and stuff. I don't know. But, oh, this probably has old gas in it. You can always tell by the smell. This still smells flammable. So I'm going to stick this endoscope down in here, if I can get it down in there, and see if there's gas in the tank. Uh-oh. Looks horrible already. But the bottom of the tank actually looked pretty good. I'm going to say that this is probably not Obama gas. I'm also going to invent something that will do this for you without having to stick your finger down in there and hold that thing. The little flappy do. So I think what we'll do is put a battery in this car and see if the fuel gauge works. And see if I can hear anything going. Come on out of there, you stupid anti-siphon valve. Okay, that was exciting. So the next thing we're going to do is locate the fuse block and take our little peek at that. Yep, fuses. Okay. Okay, here's our fuse block right here. Now, the reason this is the weakest link is because those fuse spades on those ATO fuses are not necessarily watertight. So when you've got all this crap like this on the shifter, that can corrode those spades. Now it's a little tight in here, so I'm not gonna probably get too involved, but the way to fix that is to take yourself a pair of pliers, pull each fuse, spray some of this in there, and then get a little brush and brush out that whole fuse block. Do not get your fuses confused. Get it? Take your little electronic cleaning brush. You can get these at your hotel you're staying in. If you go to the front desk and tell them you forgot your electronic cleaning brush, they'll hand you one of these. And then once you're done with that, take the original fuses, which have a coating. Let me see if I can pull one out here. I'll pull out this number 10 because I can get it back in easy. Okay. These fuses have a coating on them. Well, it's hard to see there, but this coating will wear or get hot or get corroded or whatever. A lot of times I just replace the fuses, but when I do, I don't always replace the fuses, but when I do, I take some of this dielectric grease and coat the spades with it. Even though it has a factory coating, that factory coating seems to go bad, and these fuses actually look pretty good. And based on everything else I see in this car, I'm not anticipating on having this problem, but if I start it and the headlights flicker or the radio doesn't work right, I will probably come back and revisit this plan. Also, old radios and blower motor switches, sometimes you can pop the knobs off, spray a bunch of this crap down in there, and then twirl it back and forth a million times, and that will correct any kind of problems you might be having with radios and whatnot. Sometimes you can spray it down into other little switches here and there. And there's some kind of, oh, there's a little screen down there, system check. I didn't even know that was a thing back then. So let me see if I can get this fuse back in using only my sense of feel. I probably just pulled out a really important fuse to demonstrate this to you. Let's see, does it go right? There? Yeah, there you go. Okay. All right, I'm going to leave this open in case we need to revisit anything. Now, the other problem with these miserable side post batteries is the bolts like to strip sometimes. So I always try to start them by hand. I don't understand what happened. Oh, I think the socket might be the wrong size. Maybe that's the problem. Is that the problem? Let's go see if we've got any electricity after we trip and destroy our what's left of our knee on the old battery. Oh! How about a horn? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I didn't hear the fuel pump running in the tank. It probably needs a fuel pump. And the reason I say that, date code on this battery is K4. A, B, C, D, E, F, G is 6. H, I, J. So 6 is June, H, July, I is August, J is September, K is October. This battery is from October of 2014, and I'm pretty convinced of that. So battery codes are either numbered, it'll have the month and year like 0624, or back in the day they used the letter code and then the last number of the year. So back in this decade it would have been 2014, and the letter K is the 10th letter in the alphabet, I think. I kind of sucked in kindergarten. So I'm gonna get some fresh gas and probably get some kind of a first aid kit. I keep learning more and more about Pennsylvania. Like, I haven't found one gas station with ethanol-free gas. Now, I did not hear the fuel pump. Oh, dang it. I know I pulled the fuel release button. Stand by. Anyway, did it? Oh, there it opened that time. I guess I closed it the last time like an idiot. No ethanol-free gas. And there's lots of road rage around here. And everybody with a lawnmower has like a Cessna airplane engine mounted to it. So that's soothing. Nice place though. Where my gas cans suck. Oh, there it goes. Just because I didn't hear the fuel pump running doesn't mean that it won't run or didn't run. Sometimes you gotta massage them a little bit. Uh-oh. Yeah, I think the tank is completely full now. I've got an influence tool to persuade the fuel pump, but the first thing I'm going to do is just hit the key probably 50 times and see if we can't rock that pump back to working again. Otherwise, you get the persuader, you smack the bottom of the gas tank sideways. Rubber mallet works better, but I don't have one. Then you can go under the hood and give all those relays on the firewall a couple taps, see if they're stuck. Okay, I absolutely do not hear the fuel pump running at all. So I'm going to try to smack on it with this hammer a little bit. And you guys get a bird's eye view of me doing that. And then I'm going to put some kind of spray into the throttle body. Man, this car is really clean under here. I'll put a little laughing gas in the throttle body and try to see if it'll at least run that way. And that'll give us some more diagnostic criteria. As the neighbor's got an eye full of butt crack. I don't make a lot of friends wherever I go, that's for sure. This looks like a good spot. I've said it before, these 6-in-1 nut drivers are good for working on cars because it's got 2 Phillips, 2 flats, and then a 1/4 and a 5/16 inch nut driver. And the 1/4 inch nut driver always seems to fit on these hoses, these dry, decrepit hoses here. So maybe if this thing runs for a minute or two on some kind of stuff, it'll send some constant voltage to that fuel pump. I hear the relays clicking under the hood, so I don't think that's the problem. So we'll put that in there. Put this back on in case it blows up. This will tell us if at least the ignition system works, I think. Contact. There we go. Put you back. Set you there. Oh. Well. Uh-oh. Interesting. This may not be such great news here. It seems to be that this wiring on these relays is a little bit iffy, especially that one right there. Something weird going on there. And this thing here is the first, one of the first distributorless engines. This is a Buick engine, basically. Same as a 231. Looks just like a 3800, just smaller. There's a ignition control module underneath this block, and this coil pack is silicone filled. Jeez, Jason. Those things melt. Control modules go bad. And like I said, there was always electrical gremlins with that Buick Grand National that I bought because of the way it was stored until I got it done. Now the problem here is I'm not sure that this car is worth going through all that with, because in the end it's still an 87 Grand Am. I was hoping it would be in a little bit better shape than it is. It's difficult to work on in this garage. I'd have to pull it out, probably go somewhere and clean it up, and then try from there. So it's kind of a judgment call at this point. I'm gonna probably have to talk to the owner and maybe even advise him he'd be better off to sell this car for parts, or because, you know, you could open up a big can of worms in this thing really quick and end up spending thousands of dollars that you'll never get back. That's the problem. Now, typically, these cars are pretty easy to get fired up and get them rocking and rolling pretty quick and easy, but it doesn't always work that way, as you see. Now, I haven't even begun to diagnose anything yet because, like I said, I'm pretty sure we might have a little bit of wiring issue up there, and who knows what else. From the corrosion and the crud, it's just hard to say. So let me do a little thinking here and we'll figure this out. Okay, after an extensive off-camera diagnostic hissy fit, it seems like we've got trouble in paradise here. And that trouble is, I noticed that over anything on this side of the engine compartment has like intermittent power. So it fired a couple of times. Power antenna tried to work a couple of times. I've got continuity through all the fuses, voltage through all the fuses. So there's an output problem likely on this side. And that is probably a destroyed wiring harness, which is a real bummer because on this car, it's impossible to find things like that. It's hard to fix things like that, especially in a garage like this. Then in the end, when you go through all that, you still just have a 1987 Pontiac Grand Am. I certainly don't think the owner is even aware of what's going on, but this car is just not worth the trouble of doing all that to, unfortunately. So I'm going to put everything back exactly as I found it. Well, it'll be full of gas, but otherwise, exactly as I found it, knowing that the engine turns over, and that's about it. Also, the digital odometer doesn't work anymore, and that's pretty important. This is one of those times where storing a car is very, very important. How you do it, for how long, what the conditions are like. I was really hoping this car would be really good, and from all outside appearances, it should be. But there's something going on in there, and it's either a rodent problem or moisture problem, or maybe both. Okay, so I'm here with the owner, Mike, and his associate, and we've decided to come up with an amicable separation agreement with this Grand Am because it's just gone over the cliff financially for me to take this back to Florida. I was buying this car, but I've had to switch gears because I didn't realize some of the issues it has. But there is definitely some kind of a wiring issue. It's got no spark, needs a fuel pump, and the side moldings are disintegrated. And also the odometer, the digital odometer flickers, and that's the big problem I have with it right now. The mileage is verified with paperwork, probably on Carfax as well, but it's just not worth me hauling this thing 1,000 miles to spend, you know, $2,500, $3,000 on it to get it really nice again. Now these guys weren't aware of some of this stuff, so I kind of diagnosed some of it for them. If I had more time and I lived around the corner, I could probably knock this stuff out. So fuel pump, odometer cluster rebuilt, a little bit of wiring, probably a little bit of a rodent problem in the front passenger side around the crankshaft position sensor area, ECU and the kick panel. It may be a corrosion issue as well. I didn't get that far. Probably needs an alternator. It's a good car. 42,000 miles. Great guy that has it. Excellent interior. Smells good inside. Just has a lot of mold from the moisture. So Mike is a great guy, and his associate is really a great guy. And I've had a good time up here. This has been a fun trip for me, you know. So any closing statements, Mike?
Well, I've enjoyed, Jason, meeting you, and I'm sorry there were some Achilles heels with the Grand Am that we didn't anticipate in the giddy euphoria of last night in fading light,
Yeah.
realizing that there were a lot of positives with the vehicle. I do hope someone out there realizes the car is very unique. I don't have the exact number of Grand Am SEs in what I think is a beautiful color, garnet red, with the powertrain. Is that the right term? Powertrain. 3-liter V6.
Correct.
And you know, the fact that someone never brought an ice cream cone inside that vehicle. As much
I
as
can vouch for that, Mike.
Yes,
yeah.
and you know, because I wanted to try to keep it in pristine condition, and I actually think the Buick Riata, though he's told me he will taser me if I
I've poo-pooed the Riata, yes. I've given him a thumbs up for the Honda Prelude, though.
Yeah, the Honda Prelude.
Yeah.
It's the kind of car that doesn't just blend in with a bunch of other makes and models.
Correct.
And I think you could get that car. The car's heard a lot of laughs over the years. All the mileage on it was when I was a touring stand-up. So it has a legacy of laughter, and it has a woman, I won't give her last name, named Mandy, who broke my heart, and I can't listen to any Barry Manilow songs now, not just Mandy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Without contemplating hurling myself into a wood chipper. But that's neither here nor there. Thank you, Mandy. Ramada Inn, Blacksburg, Virginia, 2002. at Hokie House. We spent a great weekend together because she thought I was destined to be on the Tonight Show. I may have engaged in a little hyperbole there, but forgive me.
You
God.
may have missed
But,
your
yeah.
you
Broke
probably
my
she was
heart.
probably right,
She's
Mike.
a
I'm
psychiatrist
thinking.
now, and I'm sure she uses me in a lot of lectures. Thank you for enduring my
Yes.
rambling. I'm very ADHD. I think Mandy pointed that out to me. Hopefully now she has kids that make every day happy for her, because I don't hold grudges.
Thank you, Mike.
So there you go, fun seekers. You win some and you lose some in this business, that's for sure. However, I did kill 2 birds with 1 stone. There was another car in the same state of Pennsylvania that I looked at. That one may be coming to the channel, and it's a far more viable car, I think, and pretty interesting. But we'll see. Time will tell. I got out of Florida for a few days, and I got to meet some new people, and I wouldn't trade that experience for the world. This car and this video was definitely an anomaly. You know, you can get fuel-injected cars running. That was the focus point of this video. There was just some obstacles with that car that would be very difficult for me to jump in Florida. So it just wasn't worth me hauling it back ultimately. We even started the renegotiating process, and basically if they would have given me the car for free, I did give him a deposit, which I told him to go ahead and keep. He's a super nice guy, and he doesn't deserve to have his time paused that way. So he can keep that and apply it towards whatever he gets for the car. Both of them were really nice guys, and it was really a pleasure hanging out with those guys and talking to them for a while. Pennsylvania is a great place, pretty cool. I'm going to probably put my GPS on avoid Democrats and head back to Florida tomorrow and see what unfolds with the other car coming to the channel. So there you go. You win some, you lose some. I've been losing a lot lately, but I'll get some wins sooner or later. That's just the nature of the beast. If there's a fuel-injected car somewhere sitting around, don't be afraid to dive into them. You may run into a little bit of a rut like I did. And the problem ultimately with that car was it was too nice to butcher back together and make it run, but it's not desirable enough to spend all the extra effort to make it perfect. And so it was kind of a teetering point with that, and you just can't do that sometimes. It's virtually on the verge of being a really good parts car. I think the humidity in that little garage is probably the culprit, and that would have probably happened with almost any other car. Of course, older cars are easier to undo that stuff with. I totally get it. But if you've got a fuel injected car that's just been sitting in a garage for 10 years, typically what you'd want to do, check that fuel injection, fuel pump system, make sure your connections are good, and check that fuse box. And more than likely, you can get everything working and everything running. I did off camera test everything. Fuses were passing power, continuity. Whatever the problem was with that car is all isolated into the front passenger side of the engine compartment, where the ECUs in the kick panel, crankshaft position sensor, alternator, all of that circuitry over in that area has some problems. Can't see them, didn't have the equipment to get in there and dig after them, but that's the problem. And it could have been a bad ground. It could just be extreme corrosion. I don't know. So that's my educated guess. Now, when I had my 87 Grand National, it was worth me spending 6 months working through all that, because I ended up getting that car really cheap and selling it for a lot of money because it was like brand new when I was done. But this wasn't a Grand National. This was a Grand Am SE. Nice car for somebody. Those side moldings are absolutely unavailable anywhere on the planet. I looked and looked and looked and looked and looked. I spent like an hour looking online last night. They just don't exist, and a lot of them are already broken. Sadly, Pontiac is gone, and all the availability in the aftermarket, unless it's an old GTO or anything older than like 1980, well, I guess Trans Ams were up to a point, but these cars, they just don't have anything for them anymore. Pontiac, Oldsmobile, Mercury, all those things are gone now. And I really appreciate you guys watching, and I will catch you guys on the flip side.
Thanks for tuning in, fun seekers. Make sure you tune in again.